The central bank. Did Stalin say, or was it Lenin, who wrote the, Karl Marx, there's the guy. Didn't he say one of the planks of communism was a central bank? Wow, and then you find out these banksters, these globalist banksters, they funded him. And they funded Hitler, and they funded Mao, and they've been funding all these people, and now they're in control of your money. Is that what you wanted for your family? So anyway, American taxpayers' money is at stake. Well, hey, what do they care? A little bit of news, because we're doing the news thing for you. Let's see, what else we're going to give you the, okay, we've been down Detroit. Oh, I love this one. This is from Missouri. Show them the Missouri cover sheet anyway. Missouri terrorist training. And here's where they're training the law enforcement community in Missouri, okay, that Ron Paul, remember he was a candidate, he's a Republican, he's a congressman from Texas, because he says go by the Constitution. Ron Paul, Chuck Baldwin, oh yeah, that was your libertarian candidate. Or Bob Barr, another one of them, or one of them was Constitution, one was Libertarian, okay, that anybody who was a supporter of those, that they're a terrorist. Remember, they're going to, at this next false flag terrorism event, whether it's another mass shooting thing or it's a, a pandemic thing where we've got to have you checkpoints because you're sick, because they release, oh, that's right, the avian flu. Okay, that anybody who's voted for, Ron Paul, Chuck Baldwin, or Bob Barr, they're a future terrorist. See, they'll change the terrorist to blonde-hair, blue-eye terrorist. Okay, because they have to keep you believing that they're keeping you safe. Even though when you check, once again with 9/11, you check any of them, the stuff doesn't add up. It stinks, it smells, you've been lied to. But now, anyway, so show them the thing. This is what they're teaching the guys in Missouri, okay? So that anybody that, stands for the Constitution, even though our representatives are supposed to uphold and defend, our military, okay, is supposed to, foreign and domestic, all enemies. Anybody who's an enemy to the Constitution, protect, defend, preserve. Remember, Obama made the mistake. Oh, then he made the mistake again. You wonder why, huh? Who do I know? What do you know? What do we know? So anyway, also people who mention the North American Union. Yeah, well, show them the North American Union map. This is because Bush, remember that honest guy, yeah, who was a cheerleader from years, told you he was a Texan, okay? Bush signed an agreement called the Security and Prosperity Partnership, SPP. You can go to spp.org, too, and find out if, do you think I'm lying? With the guy running Mexico and the guy running Canada on how they wanted to absolve our borders. So anyway, a little bit of news, because now you know the people in Missouri, if you voted for Ron Paul and you believe in the Constitution, you voted for the Constitution Party, you voted for the Libertarians, you're now a terrorist. Yeah. Getting interesting, isn't it? And you at home, maybe it's time you start thinking, is it time you do something? When will you stand up? When will liberty become important to your children after you're in a camp? Oh, that's right. FEMA camps, I forgot. Yeah. All right, well, here's a little bit of tonight's main topic and stuff. And what I want to go with you is, this is the terrorist watch list. It's now exceeded 1 million. Here, show them the thing. This is from USA Today. Terrorist watch list hits 1 million. I remember when it hit 800,000, when it hit 500,000. They're adding 20,000 a month. So for you, terrorist watch list. Could you imagine, for you Sharon viewers who survived the Holocaust, can you imagine people being put on lists? They were not tried. They weren't found guilty of anything. And if these are terrorists, why don't we arrest them? Why don't we try them? Okay? And why don't we, put them away because they're, quote, terrorists? But no, they don't do that, do they? Yeah, and if a 5-year-old is on, his name's on the list. But what's important for you to consider, would you please consider? Right now it's a no-fly list. Rahm Emanuel is going to make it a no-buy-gun list. Oh, so you're not guilty of anything, but you can't have a gun. You haven't been tried, no jury of your peers, no show me the evidence, no affidavit of people, like you'd need for just even a warrant, okay? You don't know how you got on. Do you know how you get off? Well, what happens if it becomes a no-buy list? I can't sell you that, because your name shows up as a bad name. Especially if we have that wonderful cashless society that they want to push, that the bankers want to push us on, because that gives them more control. But what if that no-fly list turns into a no-job list? Well, I'd like to hire you, but because your name's on this list, remember, you Holocaust survivors, do you remember when names were on lists? Do you remember that? Can you tell the people around you watching the television now that this thing of lists where people aren't tried and they're not found guilty, that just somebody puts them on a list, is that good or is that bad? So maybe that'll be a no job list. Well, I can't hire you because I can't report that you're an employee for me because the government's got you on this list. You have to get your name off the list first. Oh, you're a college student. You can't get any government loans or federal help for your education because you're on a list. Oh, benefits? I'm sorry, you don't qualify for government benefits because you're on a list. Oh, you're at the food handout shelter place. Like in Oklahoma where 5,000 people showed up for food. Yeah, type that into your machine, but we can't give you the food because your name's on a list. Are you people so asleep? Are you? Are you that conditioned? Are you all on Prozac? 100 million prescriptions last year for Prozac. Are you one of them? Are you on a list? So here I want to show you, here's Rahm Emanuel, your dual citizen chief of staff of the White House, gun-grabbing guy. Okay, here's what he says about the list. Don't forget.
Getting voices for change and then making sure that we have a president, I cannot put my partisanship aside, a Democratic president, who will take that office and use it to protect the streets and the kids that grow up on those streets and make sure that we once again have an assault weapon ban, a Brady bill with the full force of the law on the land, because we need somebody in the Oval Office that moves this Congress. We had an election about change. People are clear about the special interests. They are tired of that gridlock that special interests cause in Washington. And I think the most simple thing we can do, and we've got to make this a #1 issue as a test vote and then take it into the election, that is, if you are on the no-fly list because you are known as maybe a possible terrorist, you cannot buy a handgun in America. And I am not one far from liking the mixing of politics and policy, but as my old boss used to say, give me that vote and throw me into that briar patch. I'll make politics out of that every day, because if it's between that terrorist list and the NRA, I know where America is going to be every time, and they're going to make the right choice, and we have got to start building on that. That is the right thing to take into the election, and it's the right policy. If you're on that no-fly list, your access to the right to bear arms is canceled because you're not part of the American family. You don't deserve that right. There is no right for you if you're on that terrorist list. That should be #1 in what we do. Make sure there's a full force of the law behind the Brady bill. So to all those who dedicate their lives to seeing sensible gun laws, remember, it's sensible gun laws, police on the beat.
So Rahm Emanuel just came out, and he said you're not part of the American family. Even though you're not convicted of anything, you're just suspected, you possibly could be maybe. Are you Americans going to put up with that for your children? Are you going to put up with that? Is that why people came to America? Is that freedom? Is that liberty? You Holocaust survivors, have they done this before? Will you please tell your neighbors? And for you deniers, who think this is right because you bought all this false flag terrorism, go to the mirror. Get in front of that mirror and start practicing your excuses why you did nothing. Yeah, the Germans gave us the excuses. How they didn't notice it. It happened real slowly. They changed the laws very slowly. By the time the laws changed, we had no power. We couldn't do anything. They had taken their guns. Oh, yeah. Isn't it funny how all these Prozac people are involved in all these mass shootings, yet not a word said about that the fact that they're taking drugs. Nobody's going after the drug companies, but we better take your gun away because you might want to defend yourself against one of these nut shooters. And in our Sharon schools, what do we teach our children? Lock down, tear down, stand down, hide down. Okay.